will be still some people flocking in, but maybe we should kick off and begin with our session. There are a lot of people in Ukraine still having lots of energy problems, so it's hard to still connect to these sessions. They are being recorded, so I repeat once more that you should choose a language option because everything is translated to Ukrainian and vice versa. So also everything said in Ukrainian is translated to English. So you have to choose your right channel, your right bottom of your screen, and then choose the English or the Ukrainian channel to be in the right format. Gintare, I see you looking. You find it?
Yeah, I'm searching for it.
It can also be that it's not yet showing up, so you go to the ... if you have.
And there I see
there you see interpretation or translation, and there you find your channel.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Well, that gave people also the option to enter our room. So I immediately would like to welcome you all, and especially, of course, our speaker, but give the floor to Elena to do the further introductions.
Thank you, Lilith. So I'm happy to see again today everyone as a last week, and I hope the power cut will not disturb too much today, but let's see and be ready for that. I am really grateful and thankful that Gintare Norkunaite is joining us today. It was actually not easy as a task to find out someone that actually focused from the design, architecture, planning perspective to urban health issues, even though it would be maybe strange to think that it's not an important topic, but it's actually not really discovered topic, and it's my pleasure to introduce Gintare, who will give us a lecture today on urban health, and she will tell us more where she comes from, but she's representing Max Van Bureau, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Try to share the screen.
You can share it on the green button. It's in the middle, the green arrow.
Yeah. Do you see?
Not yet. Probably coming. Okay. Yeah, it's coming up now. It's there.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So if everything is fine, then you should see the main slide, starting slide with a healthy city and a visual.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so it works.
Yeah.
So thank you for this opportunity to be here and to share my passion and my knowledge. I'm Lithuanian. For my studies, I chose the Netherlands, and after I graduated in urbanism, I decided to stay in the Netherlands and to gain work experience there. And I'm already working in Post and Maxman for 10 years. And then Post and Maxman is
Can we make sure everyone is muted? There's someone that is making. I think Olesa.
This, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Also, Maxman is it's a company, urban design company with architects, landscape architects, urban designers, and we work together on healthy, sustainable, and smart cities. You see slides changing, right? Okay, great. We have different teams with their own focus, and our projects ranges from public space designs, which are also implemented, to master plans, visions on neighborhood, city scale, region and national scales. We provide also advice for policy. And we are supported by Team Digital Cities with help us with spatial analysis and digital twins. On the topic of health, we work already more than 10 years. We actually, I together with my colleague Mariana, we started this 10 years ago. It was quite a journey. We first started reading articles to understand what is the actual link between the health and physical environment, in which ways physical environment influences our well-being. Then we looked at the healthcare data and overlapped that with spatial data to understand what are the patterns. And then we started working on the projects on multiple scales, design and policy projects, and informed how the urban environment, our environment should be shaped in order to provide healthy living. So why do we start from health? We see that in the Netherlands, in province of Zuid-Holland, we track this province already for a decade, and we see that there's a decline in perceived health, and also mental health deteriorates. There are, of course, a few neighborhoods as exception, but in general, the trend is that not only in the cities, but also in the rural areas, the health is declining. And we also, through different research projects, we realized that it is in certain neighborhoods more severe than in others. Certain neighborhoods have a tendency to cluster in different health issues, people that experience physical or mental vulnerability, overweight, or loneliness. And we know also that certain social groups can be disproportionately affected by certain environmental effects. For example, heat stress or heat island effect. Elderly people, lonely people, people with health conditions, young children up to the age of 5, and people living in poverty are disproportionately affected by it. And that has to do with some of their reduced body heat regulation, reduced thirst sensation, or not having financial resources to adapt your living in that environment, apply certain measures, or lacking information and help at the right time. This topic is also included in planning documents and planning law. Recently, it has been changed, and in this Environmental Act that right now kind of encompasses all the different laws that used to guide the spatial developments before, it's now in one act. And there, health has a prominent role. It says that that's one of the objectives, to create a healthy living environment that also encourages healthy behavior and offers protection against negative environmental influences. And authorities, both government but also companies, must take into account precautionary principle. That means that if there's evidence or valid reason to believe that activities could have a negative impact on our health, they need to take action. So that means that that urges these authorities to invest in prevention. There are 6 instruments that support implementation of this Environmental Act, and they are on multiple scales. So, for example, visions are prepared by municipalities, by provinces, and by the state. The urban developments, urban designs are then translated into omgevingsplan or environmental plan. And if somebody wants to build, then that they need to get a environmental permit. And these instruments help to look at the living environment integrally and include health perspective from the very beginning and let it play an important role. So what is healthy environment and what is health to start with? For the health definition, we use definition that is provided by Institute for Positive Health. It takes a different approach on health. That usually the way it's looked at the health is from healthcare perspective. That tends to focus on illnesses, health problems, and how can they be solved. Whereas positive health takes a different angle. The emphasis is not on the illness, but on the people themselves, and rather their resilience. So what helps them to have meaningful lives? And there are 6 dimensions: body functions, mental well-being, interest, life, quality of life, participation, and daily functioning. And if these 6 dimensions are integrated in the design, then we provide people ability to cope with physical, emotional, and social challenges in life, and take responsibility of their own life and have a meaningful life. Physical environment can influence our health in direct and indirect way. Direct way would be providing us healthy air to breathe, healthy food, and indirect way through lifestyle. For example, do we have a opportunity to walk or cycle to our work? Do we have a place to exercise and meet each other? So these 2 components, the space and the lifestyle, is the core of focusing on prevention. And through the different research projects, we bundled these principles that influence our well-being into 6 topics. And these topics are sustainable and safe living and working environment, space for small and big, green and blue, active and inclusive traveling, diversity and proximity of functions, close-knit sustainable communities, and local food. And I will guide you through these topics with examples. So per topic, we define also subtopics, and per subtopic also specific measures that you can take and include in design. So for example, for the topic sustainable, safe living and working environment, one of the subtopic is climate adaptive environment. And there are certain measures you can take on city and network scale or neighborhood and street scale. So to start your design, you could first look at the landscape where your design is placed. So what type of soil there is, what type of water system, so that you can connect to it in the best way. Also, in the planning of neighborhoods, we take into consideration the heavy rainfall events that occur once in 250 years. And in the Netherlands, that's 90 millimeter buffer needed per every square meter of paved surface. And we try to also design the neighborhood in such a way that vulnerable infrastructure or certain facilities could be accessible and functioning even during this rainfall event. And on the neighborhood scale, that requires to remove paving, greenify public spaces, provide cool places. So, but has at least 200 square meters. That is kind of minimal critical mass to have a cooling effect. For during the rain seasons, to buffer water and infiltrate on site as much as possible, And as a no regret measure, is always green roofs, green blue roofs, and that can be added. For topic space for small and large green and blue, what is important is a presence of these places and good walking routes. And we look at the different scales of green and blue. So it starts, first of all, at your doorstep. Then there's a neighborhood park of 2 hectares within 300 meters of walking, a city park within 10-minute walking, and a landscape park within 2 kilometers from each home. And on neighborhood level, you can think of applying of rule 330-300, which is about that from every house you should be able to see 3 trees. That 30% of the neighborhood is covered by tree crowns, and that's within 300 meters there's a cooling park. When designing mobility networks, we usually look at through angle of priorities. First of all, prioritizing pedestrians and cyclists, so slow traffic, then public transport, then shared mobility, and as a last, private cars. So for that, on the city and network scale, it's important to design full and good function and attractive walking and cycling networks that connect the most important destinations and connect people also to green outside the cities and reduce infrastructure barriers as much as possible. And on the neighborhood scale, you can think of in residential areas to lowering speed to 30 kilometers an hour, and places where people meet and spend a lot of time, like sub-centers, city centers, introducing car-free or low-traffic zones, so really giving priority to pedestrians. And for the topic proximity to functions, you probably heard about the concept of 15-minute city. So that requires creating mixed neighborhoods where living, working, healthy food and drink options, healthcare, education, and recreation is nearby within a 15-minute walking or cycling distance. Some of these functions should be clustered to create sub-centers. And routes leading to them with active ground floors that make sure that there's always attractive and social safety. On neighborhood scale, next to these clusters of amenities, you could think of providing more people opportunity to benefit from it, so therefore also creating higher densities and also designing compact, qualitative, and accessible public spaces to everyone. Close-knit and sustainable communities. Here the focus is on collaboration and ownership, and that starts in actually your apartment. Apartments could accommodate nowadays lifestyles, people searching for more collective forms of living, but shared facilities. Also, inhabitants should be integrated in the design process through participation. On the neighborhood scale, you can think of providing places where people could meet and work together, and creating enough eyes on the street so that there is interaction between inside and outside. And last but not least, local food topic. One of the things that you can think of is provide space for local food production, and measure community garden. This is actually quite a powerful measure because it involves different aspects that contribute to our well-being. First of all, local food, it's good for our health because it is grown in usually biodiverse areas, and this biodiversity enriches our microbiome, and through that also strengthens our immune system. That is especially important for kids up to the age of 5. Besides biodiversity, community gardens make people to spend more time outdoors in the green environment and also socialize and meet their neighbors. So, and by this also bringing multiple health benefits. All other principles are bundled in the booklet, and which is accessible online. It is in Dutch, however, but you can easily translate that using DeepL program. So having all these principles, how do we design for a healthy environment? How do we include it in the practice? It is often that traditional assignment comes from a quantitative question. So many houses need to be added. Then you can calculate how many amenities need to be provided, how many parking places need to be added, and then how mobility networks should connect, and etc. And only then where here and there pocket parks or some trees can be added in the street as a green confetti. However, these green-blue networks take the longest time to reach the full development, so greatest inertia. And in our approach, we start with this layer. So we look at the soil and water system of the site and look at how can we design robust green-blue networks. And that defines actually the carrying capacity of the neighborhood. Then we look how mobility networks can be integrated in a good way, where amenities could be placed, and also new housing program. And as well, if we work in the existing neighborhood, then we also look at the social networks, because these networks are also like green and blue. It takes a lot of time to get created, get formed, and they are very easily damaged. So with this this approach I will illustrate through one of the case projects, development vision for Ridderveld. Ridderveld is a neighborhood in Alphen aan de Rijn. That's a mid-sized city of around 100,000 inhabitants. It is a historical city around River Rhine, and surrounded by agricultural land. It is 1/3 of the city, built in 2 phases in the 1970s and 1980s. And now in the Netherlands, there's a huge housing shortage, and the municipality of Alphen aan de Rijn wants to build these new homes in existing neighborhoods. And seeing how Ridderveld is spatially planned, there was a question, can we look how can we add more houses in this neighborhood? And not only just adding these houses, but also thinking how these new homes could improve existing environment. We first did analysis looking at 3 aspects. First of all, collecting the data about health challenges, then talking with representatives of different social groups to understand existing social networks in the neighborhoods. This is a really important layer because it gives us a better understanding of what needs to be preserved in the neighborhood and which places people use and how can we improve them through the new developments. And as a third aspect, we looked at a spatial component using these principles that I mentioned before, made an analysis of how existing environment supports or does not support well-being. And these conclusions then we translated into interventions in the neighborhood on per layer, starting with the green-blue infrastructure, then looking at the energy, mobility, and voorzieningen, amenities, also using these principles to guide choices. And as a last layer, we looked at the housing. And the housing for us is not a quantitative assignment, but rather we looked how through new homes we can improve the neighborhood. And you may ask, how can it be done? By looking at by adding new program, we could we can also unlock other opportunities. For example, here on the left, you see a typical situation of a housing block with storages on the ground floor. It is right next to a neighborhood park, but it's close but yet far because you need to go around the building to access the park. So by transforming this ground floor, adding a new function, you actually create an active front to this park, create more social safety, provide interaction opportunities for neighbors, and add new homes in the existing neighborhood. In the neighborhood also, it's very paved, and this pavement is partially caused by huge parking areas, which we see in the data that cause heat island effect, and also during the rainy months, flooding. So by reorganizing how we park cars, by stacking the cars, putting them in the parking hubs, more space can be gained for more green trees and extra program in the neighborhood. As well as we see that in Riddervold, but it's also a reoccurring issue in the whole country, that there are a lot of elderly people living in the very big single-family homes and far from the care. And by building new homes in the neighborhoods, better suitable homes for these people can be created with care functions or informal care where different social groups can care for each other, like seniors living together with young professionals. And so the moving from big single-family homes to suitable homes can be facilitated, and these single-family homes can be then used by those who really need them, so the big families. Also, what we see that in residential neighborhoods often we find a monotonous typology, so single type of apartment. While if we transform these neighborhoods, we could also diversify the housing types, and that provides opportunity for people to do their residential career within the same neighborhood. And the residential career is, it's a term. Think of it, at first you live at your parents' home, and then you move out to a small apartment, then you create a family, then you need a bigger apartment. And this process, if the neighborhoods are diverse, you could be able to do it within their own neighborhood and keep your social network. And all these layers then come together into integral spatial framework that fosters healthy environment. And this framework is then used to guide developments and initiatives in the neighborhood for a long term. And that long term is, 2040, 2050, and past that. And there are certain lessons learned from this project. We see that this approach leads to different housing locations. What you see here was a housing development plant right next to a heavy high category road for social housing and for elderly. So this is exactly the social group that would actually benefit from calm instead of being exposed to noise and air pollution. And through looking, with the eyes of designer to this neighborhood, we found that actually there is space to add these homes right next to a park by adding, for example, 1 or 2 floors on existing houses or reorganizing parking. And not only building these homes, but also looking at these projects integrally and redesigning the public space so that it is better connected to these buildings, and that there are also places where where people can meet and do activities together. Also, this neighborhood in municipality was seen as complete, finished, and to their surprise, 3,000 to 4,000 new homes can actually be added, and that's around 20% of existing housing stock in this neighborhood. This approach also helps to tackle multiple issues at once, linking social, health, and spatial aspects. For example, here you see a photo of a place. On the right, there's a housing building, social housing that has a low energy class. And there people have high energy costs, but because they cannot pay for these high energy costs, they actually tend to reduce the heating, and that has a negative effect on their immune system, and there is a vicious circle, as well as the immediate environment around these apartment blocks is not inviting for people to spend time there, and certain functions such as healthcare and cultural community functions are missing. Redesigning this space and redeveloping this neighborhood integrally. Existing homes can be renovated, and renovation partially can be funded by new homes that can be added on the ground floor, for example. The public space could be redesigned to facilitate slow traffic and meeting and play and sports for different social groups. And in places where there's a single-story building, plots can be intensified by adding missing functions such as community, cultural places, education, and healthcare. So the densification doesn't have to come at the cost of a green. Actually, it just makes it uses the existing paved surface and provides a different meaning for it. The spatial framework, integral spatial framework, also can be used to guide developments in the neighborhood. For example, here is also a typical street, and there's a lot of sewage replacement works planned in this neighborhood. So usually you would just open the surface, replace the sewage, and then you bring the same situation back. However, if the plans are prepared, this could be used as opportunity to redesign the street into an attractive walking route that leads to a cluster of amenities, renovating existing homes, using the ground floors to add new functions. In this case, place for entrepreneurs. We, through the analysis, we realized that in this monofunctional residential neighborhood, actually there are a lot of entrepreneurs living and looking for a place to open their business. And the ground floors, would actually provide them a good place and visibility. Also, climate adaptive measures could be added, removing pavement, adding more shadow, and creating more attractive places for people to stay. And this huge housing shortage, it's a big question for municipalities, and they take different views on it. And of course, if you go the easiest and the quickest way, that would result in just extension of the city. However, densifying or adding these homes, transforming the existing neighborhoods, provide opportunity to tackle the issues that are already there, and improve the living environment of those who live there, existing inhabitants, and the future inhabitants. That's the end of my presentation, and I am curious if you have any questions.
Thank you. Very nice to see this all, and you see all the hearts popping up, so people did like it. Maybe you can stop the share so we can see some hands raised. There is already a question in the chat, I see, from Gilda. Open it up. She asks, when adding more green and nature-based solutions in neighborhoods, how do you make sure these improvements don't lead to higher housing costs or push out low-income residents? Was there such cases of basically gentrification?
I think I'm still sharing the screen.
Yeah. Maybe Lisa can just cut you.
Good. So the question is how we avoid that this type of project would exclude people with low income.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, indeed. That's a really good question. And so in this project, we first of all made it clear, we identify who are the most vulnerable. And that's indeed people with a low income, but also people with a poor health. And we put from the beginning of this project that whatever we do, we check what is the impact on this social group. So also with densification, then we always ask the question, how can we improve the conditions of existing inhabitants and also those the most vulnerable by adding new homes. And for example, those who live right now in the low energy class houses and social housing, we collaborated with Social Housing Corporation. We include Social Housing Corporation from the beginning of our design process, and together we sketched opportunities how in the same neighborhood new social housing can be built, so that people who are right now living in those poor isolated homes can move to the new homes. And also then it makes it easier for the Social Housing Corporation to renovate the existing stock. So we always, instead of moving those people outside, we always looked for the place how we can maintain the amount of social housing in the neighborhood, and yeah, collaborated with corporation. I think that's a key.
Elena?
Yeah, thank
One sec about this share. Lisa's trying to stop your share, but doesn't work. So maybe
Yeah, okay, then we look at it again.
have to have a look at it.
Thank you for the presentation, Gintare, and you linked up some kind of core aspects of intersections between different themes and layers in the city and the neighborhood scale that are important to address. And I think it's nicely kind of knits into the network and processes what the students are working in their projects. You haven't mentioned that much, but already kind of mentioned who you include in your processes. And I think the stakeholder kind of map or rough map and who is your client, because the aspects that you're addressing are not the first ones that developer would think of, or even municipality would kind of have it in their strategy as a priority to start with the discussion of the neighborhood development. So if you could just tell us a bit how the process of governance of the project kind of looks like, and who are your alliances, and who is actually your client.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting question. Our clients is municipality. And but municipality is also a big organism. It has different departments, green department, mobility department, social department, energy department. What we did, we actually helped them to collaborate, because that also doesn't happen often. They tend to think about their topic from their own topic perspective, but they lack understanding how their topic helps and links to other topic. So we formed, we call it a core team. So having different representatives of different topics as a kind of client for us. And we had a set of sessions with them, to develop content together. That's one. Then, besides municipality, we included a wide group of stakeholders, and that those stakeholders are representatives of different social groups. In this neighborhood, there are different nationalities. It's a very diverse neighborhood. But a social group is also kids, youth, elderly, women. So also the people that have, let's say, similar needs or interests. Then we also have healthcare institutions. So general practitioners joining, the police departments joining, the provincial governments, network providers, energy providers, Waterschap. This is an organization that manages water in the Netherlands, because you know that the country is below sea level, so that needs to be very carefully looked at. So you see that this forms, and at the end is a kind of a broad stakeholders group on multiple levels. So those who live in the neighborhood, but also those who plan on municipal and provincial levels. And we had, in our process, we had a set of sessions where we discussed the first things internally with the municipality and their different departments. And then we also go together as one voice to collaborate and collect ideas from the broad group of stakeholders.
Thank you. But then you say, Gintare, we from the urban designers, architects are not really trained on analyzing the health data or working with it through the kind of linking it with the design tools. So who is in your team, and how much you expanded your team, throughout the 10 years, and what also maybe just to share and reflect through your own growth as a urban designer, So what kind of additional skills you needed actually to work in this field?
Yeah, indeed, there's plenty of health data there. How many people with overweight, how many cancer patients per neighborhood, etc. At least in the Netherlands, it's a data-rich country. But in order to make decision what to do, you need the knowledge to understand. Okay, so if this is the health issue, that means this and that happening in the spatial environment, or this and that is needed. And that knowledge we generated through a set of projects, research projects that we did. Within both of Max one, we did kind of assign a sort of our budget for research. So that was a process of literally just going through research papers and understanding, okay, so how much green is actually needed to have a positive impact on health, and how exactly it influences our mental well-being. Then you understand that this street green that even really small some pots next to your doorstep actually help you to distract from your overthinking and give this a second of rest for your brain. And on the long term, it helps you to avoid symptoms of depression, etc. So yeah, it was together with my colleague Marianne, and actually we have now a big team around 10 people with this knowledge. It's a knowledge that you need to gather through readings, through conferences, and through practice. And in practice, by doing projects, you also start to understand which measures have a more impact, let's say, better ratio of investment and impact. There's a kind of tactical knowledge that you gain through just doing, designing, applying, testing, learning. Yeah.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, I think it is so fundamental that it is sad to see that it's not part of our curriculum in urban studies.
True. We have another question in the chat about the parking of cars while greening the area. If you don't have this possibility to build a multi-level parking lot somewhere nearby, so how do you deal with the cars?
Yeah, that's indeed a good question. First of all, you cannot take a private car before you provide something a good alternative. So then we look at the spatial structure of the neighborhoods, and often what we find that it's very car based, and the basic routes to a shopping center are missing. So people then, even though it's 5 minutes walking, people still tend to take their car to do their groceries instead of just doing it by walking or just taking their bike. So then we start, and that space usually is there. It requires a bit of attention to see where the bottlenecks, how the crossings can be redesigned, how a bit wider sidewalks can be provided in strategic places. So that, let's say, it's a bit of a play. Maybe you would need to take out 5 parked cars in one street and add somewhere else, but in this way, you would provide pedestrian and cyclist framework for the neighborhood that would then stimulate other behavior choices. And then you look also how public transport can be improved, if that's possible. And often you also see that those parked cars, they are not used daily, or that there in some neighborhoods there are more parking spaces that actually and there's a demand and people actually from other neighborhoods are parking. So you kind of need to understand what is actually happening in terms of parking, and if that car is not used daily, does it have to be in front of your door? Maybe it can be in a clustered field somewhere at the edge of the neighborhood within 10 minutes walking. So a different, let's say, ways looking at it.
How to convince people then only maybe?
Yeah, and here in the Netherlands, cities, car-based cities like Rotterdam, what works well, they, instead of just drawing and doing and realizing projects, they said, okay, let's do pilots, let's do tests. So they would say, okay, they go to inhabitants and say, like, in this street, we will do right now a pilot for 6 months. And do you want to collaborate? And inhabitants would be offered, for example, to park their car in the neighborhood mobility hub with a discount. And instead they would have a green terrace in front of their house. And some people, they collaborate, others don't. But in this way, in those 6 months, people can really also experience what is the added value of this change, and how does it affect their lifestyle. Is that car actually really needed for them to be in front of the door? And these pilot projects actually proved to be very successful. And inhabitants, when this pilot project stops, inhabitants started writing the municipality, hey, we want our green spaces back. Yeah, so perhaps it's again, instead of just going and building something and creating resistance, is involving people and letting them experience the change.
Nice, really nice idea. Tatjana, do you have connection enough to read your question out loud in Ukrainian, and Olena can translate? Or otherwise another Ukrainian person?
Or I can read it out loud.
Yep.
Краще прочитати, так.
Так, добре. В Україні є закон.
So in Ukraine, there is a law on strategic ecological assessment, which implies that every development must be assessed from the point of view of its impact on the health of the residents. Unfortunately, this law is not very effective because on the one hand, we lack experts. On the other hand, it is the procedure of assessment is very time limited. So it is very difficult during 30 days to research everything and to generalize. So this is a comment, it's not a question.
Yeah, indeed. And if we would look at the Dutch Environmental Act, they have this precautionary principle. That means that if there is already evidence that, for example, that if your house is within 25 meters next to a high category road, you will be exposed to air pollution and noise pollution. These studies already done somewhere else, and it's enough to prove that there is a risk if you place a new house within this distance next to that road, similar situation, that there is a risk that these new inhabitants will experience negative health effects. And that means that you don't have to do an extensive new study. If it has been studied and the link between the physical environment and health is already created, that's enough. And indeed, it is very difficult for every development that is happening to do these studies and the reports. They take time, and yeah, so perhaps it should be reversed. That there are a lot of, if you look at the physical environment, there are a lot of similarities. So if there's one issue reoccurring in one space, if another neighborhood has similar spatial conditions, you can expect those negative effects there too.
Thank you. I think, I don't know why suddenly I'm gone. I'll bring myself back. Thank you so much for this talk. I think we can let you go to your evening. Thank you so much for joining, and also Olena again for the wonderful translations and this fast movement of taking all the languages in and bringing it to us in other formats. Thank you. By saying goodbye to you, we will also take a break, and we all see each other back for our in-depth work on the program that we are in and digesting all your input. I would say in 10 past half. So then we will be all back. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Elena, for finding Gintare.
Yeah, thank you very much and good luck. I hope you will enjoy this process of applying the principles in your projects. And if there are more questions that come, Elena can share also my email so you know where to find me. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.